Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's eClaims webinar. My name is Anthony Contenso, a program manager within the eClaims unit. And joining me today is Mike Hunter, who's also a program manager for the eClaims unit. Now, as a reminder, please keep your phone lines muted, as we will receive your questions today via the Q&A option. Now, that option is located in the lower right-hand side of your screen, or you can also hover over the top portion of the presentation and select that option through that pop-up. When you do send your questions, please send them to all panelists, and we will answer those questions at the end of today's presentation as much as time allots. So to go over today's agenda, the first one will be the table changes that will be coming effective as of April 18th, which is just a couple of days from now. Mike will be going over those later on today in more detail. The second agenda item is that we're also going to highlight the most frequent errors that have been returned during the last 90 days from all trading partners. The third agenda is we're going to provide you with some payer information that is actually housed on the board's website now, and it's good information that we feel should be disseminated not just amongst yourself, but also your coworkers. And finally, with the time that's left, we will answer any questions that you have submitted through the Q&A option. Next up is Mike with the table changes that are effective coming in a couple of days. Mike?
Thank you, Tony. First thing I'll go over, as Tony mentioned, is the new edit going into effect on April 18th of this year. I know we went over it in our previous webinar, but just as a quick reminder, for DN 299 award order date, we are now implementing that new population restriction that the date must not be greater than the date the WCB received that EDI transmission plus 35 days. This goes into effect on April 18th. We did have an edit previously. I do not believe it was posted, but in the end, this is sort of a relaxed edit, but we are publishing it. We gave the 6 months notice for you. And the reason behind this was we had trading partners that wanted to pay proposed awards that they agreed with at the time the award was issued and didn't want to have to wait to submit their EDI transaction. So this will accommodate those trading partners who are in agreement with an award and do not want to wait the 30 days for it to become final. Next thing I'm going to go over is our most frequent errors returned during the past 90 days. First one is the population restriction for DN 0085, and it's the 064A error. Again, most common error for the last 90 days. Top error for 2022 and 2023. This is not a new edit. This is from release 3.0 and was a top error in release 3.0 as well. So this population restriction is intended to prevent a new DN 0085, so a benefit type code, from being introduced as a sweep benefit if it was not previously submitted as an event benefit or a sweep benefit on the Schroy UR or previously reported SA. So again, this is not a new edit, and this is actually per the standard, the sweep and event rules. So this is based on the IIBC Claims EDI Section 4 rules and is not a specific New York edit. The next common error is for DN 0075, and that's a population restriction for 0075064C. Again, a carryover from release 3.0, and this is to ensure that agreement to compensate code DN75 is sent with liability after the board has issued a notice that the case has been established with ANCR or ODNCR finding in accordance with Section 21A. So again, this is just the board has issued either an administrative decision, notice of decision, or a proposed decision establishing the injury sites on that claim. And after that happens, 21A ceases per the Section 21A statute. The last of the top three errors is population restriction for DN 281, and this is for 064C. And this one is actually a new one that we have not seen before. So this population restriction edit, we began with release 3.1 in January 2022. The intent of this edit was to align lost time and knowledge dates so that there's a logical timeline with all of the date fields. On January of this year, we implemented changes, relaxed edits actually, per change log item number 361. And we changed the severity rankings on several DNs from NA to AR, primarily on the Shroy SA at the request of trading partners that were receiving rejections because we were ignoring certain DNs as NA. So this was, again, per trading partner request. But once that DN became AR on January 18th of this year, and those edits were applied because we're now looking at the Shroy SA, it's apparent that some trading partners probably have been sending DN 281 on the Shroy SA for many years. This edit didn't apply previously due to that severity ranking change. And so it's just resulting in errors for that DN 281. And the actual edit is initial date employer had knowledge of date of disability must be on or after DN 56 initial date disability began. And again, this is so that we have logical information. If you have knowledge of date of disability, it should match the initial date disability began. I'm going to turn it over to Tony now to go over that payer information for the board.
Thanks, Mike. So we have some new information available on the board's website, and it's the payer requirements resources, basically. And we're excited to announce that we're trying to create a one-stop shop type of a system for payers so that they know what to expect and how to navigate the New York State Workers' Compensation System. So the What Payers Need to Know section of the board's website, again, walks you through how to get started, how to register to become a trading partner and administering claims, and much more. The page also has a payer update section that will feature the latest news that you would be interested in and what is updated regularly. This is a good, I think, way to introduce new associates within your organization that might start working within the New York State Workers' Compensation System to give them a good overview of what to expect, kind of like peek behind the scenes type of curtain before they dive into actually working within the state system. And starting in mid to late 2024, the board is going to start indexing every complete case. And we're doing that to provide some clarity and to provide basically more efficient resolution of workers' compensation claims. So what does this mean? This means that every case that has an employee claim form, which is Form C3 with the Workers' Compensation Board, or a first report of injury or FROI, and a medical report of treatment, it will be indexed by the board. Now, once that case is indexed, any denial of the claim must be filed with the board within 25 days of the date of indexing, or the defenses listed in Workers' Compensation Law, Section 25(2)B will be barred. So please pay attention to this. More information will obviously be disseminated in a public format once we get closer to the actual date of implementation. Again, you can read more of this in the notification that is dated December 15th of 2023. Also, there's going to be an onboard multi-factor authentication, MFA. I'm sure you've already been made aware of it. It became effective on Friday, March 22nd, and this helps provide additional layers of protection. So accessing sensitive information would actually be utilized by the appropriate parties and not of parties with nefarious reasons as to try to capture that information. So the accessing sensitive information would be stored within an onboard account. And to prevent loss of access, we highly emphasize that you set up as many authentication methods as possible. If you just rely on one and there is, for whatever reason, an issue with that, and you have to actually have it reset, you would need to go through different means. The board itself would not be able to reset your MFA account. That would need to go through the New York State ITS agency. So again, we highly emphasize that you utilize as many authentication methods as possible just to cover yourself and not have to rely on an outside party to get into your account. So having stated that, instructions, including how to add or update those authentication methods, may be found on the MFA instruction page, which is on the board's website. And you can see that the URL is listed here. Also, we also want you to please stay informed. You can visit the board's payers recorded webinars and guides webpage. If you missed a past webinar and you just want to catch up with things that you may have missed or have heard and you want to actually hear the webinar. And you also should sign up for receiving notifications, and that would actually go straight to your email inbox. And you can utilize that link where it says subscribe for board updates to be able to get those notifications sent straight to your inbox. And it provides you with a plethora of different subjects and topics that you would like to be notified about whenever something new or latest information is disseminated. And that concludes today's webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to use that Q&A option that you can, again, access through the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or hover over the top portion of the presentation itself, and that pop-up option should be available to you. So we're going to go quiet for a minute or two while we're receiving your questions and reviewing them. So please, we thank you for your patience and stay tuned.
We have one question from insurer. If they utilize the services of a TPA in the future, how do you notify the board of transfer of those claims to a third-party administrator? In that case there, what you would do is that third-party administrator, their eClaims administrator, would log in and do what's called an add carrier. They would add your W number to their profile. That allows them to submit claims on your behalf. And once they submit the FROI AQ or AU, or even a FROI OO on that claim, it will automatically add them to that case. So they'll be on notice in that claim.
We also have a question in regards to the MFA link. We'll show it on site on the screen right here, but it's essentially, if you go to the board's main webpage, which is www.wcb.ny.gov, if you put a /MFA, it should direct you towards the actual page itself in regards to what you need to know for the multi-factor authentication process.
There is a question, why a 25-day deadline to give notice for denials of claim? That section 25(2)B has been in statute for a very long time. That is not anything new to the board. It's always been when a claim is indexed, you have 25 days, or you could be time barred per 25(2)B for certain defenses. There's another question about if we're going to deny SROIs that have a employer knowledge of a disability after a started disability date. There already is a population restriction for some of those fields. It's not a new population restriction. It's been around even in 3.1, and some of those have been around in 3.0. It's for certain DNs, and if you have questions about specific DNs, you can always email eClaims@wcb.ny.gov. Are there any resources to understand claim type logic requirements for New York? In that case there, per the IIBC standards, we are required to post tables that are on our eClaims page. So there are tables out there with the requirements of when you can submit and what you can submit. If there's ever any questions about a specific denial or just how to submit a specific FROI to us, you can always email the eClaims team at eclaims@wcb.ny.gov. Question about the criteria for a SHROI SU, the sync up, when it would be approved. The SHROI sync up is really meant for a case where you are so far down the hole with rejections and the data is so far out of sync that, for example, you can't submit a transaction or two to write that data in the system. So if you think you have a situation like that, if you email the eClaims team, they would look at that. They're able to point you in the direction of fixing it with a couple transactions, great. If not, they would then authorize a SHROI sync up. Once they authorize that, you have a set number of days to submit that to us, and after that window, it would be rejected. For the set timeline for notices from a TPA when they take over a claim, technically speaking and legally speaking, the statute and regulations are 10 days for FROI AU. We recognize that sometimes, you have large volumes of transfer. May not always be possible. We typically recommend that you prioritize claims that that TPA is actively going to be paying on, so that those are taken care of. And then if you have any questions before that transfer, again, eClaims team, you're always welcome to email us, and we can work through that with you and your TPA. For the sweep errors and rejections, each benefit segment is its own variable segment, to use a technical term. So within that acknowledgement, it's going to reject the specific variable segment that is causing the error. So we can't, for example, if the question is, would we accept all the others and just not process the one, per the standard, we would reject everything, not process that transaction until you fix the data within that transaction and resubmit it.
Well, I want to thank you again for joining today's webinar. If you have any questions after we wrap this presentation up, as Mike has stated a couple of times within the answers he's given, any questions regarding today's presentation or just in general, like Mike stated, if you're getting a rejection and you're not quite sure what is going on and you're just looking for guidance on how to get that submission ultimately accepted, please feel free to reach out to the eClaims staff at eClaims@wcb.ny.gov. So not only in regard to those questions, but we are more than willing to hear suggestions. We've implemented a couple of things based on trading partners sending us ideas. And if it's something that we can obviously implement and something that we're able to do, whether relatively quickly or longer term, but something that we can at least take a look at and something that we could do, we would more than be willing to start that process and get that ball rolling, if you will. So again, I appreciate you attending today's meeting and this webinar, and hopefully you got something out of this. Suggestions for future presentations if you feel you'd like us to possibly cover something else. Again, please feel free to reach out to us at that eClaims email address that I and Mike have provided to you earlier. So with that, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Mike appreciates it, as well as the eClaims staff, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.